Today, I wanted to relay a question that I get pretty frequently, some answers about is a residency worth it or not? And that question actually is so multifactorial. So I'm going to break it down. One, I think a residency definitely is worth it, but a caveat is there aren't a lot of residency opportunities available for pharmacists. And because of that disconnect where the demand far outpaces the supply, it creates this situation where though a residency is important and useful, one of the most valuable skills you can actually learn is how do you get similar experiences and exposure and networks to those that do complete a residency. So I think a residency often is encapsulated as an end all be all experience as far as did you do residency or not. I think the question rather should be, did you get the experiences, though they may be packaged in residency, did you get the experiences overall that a new pharmacist practitioner needs to have in their repertoire to really function as a high-level clinician, leader in our industry, and then also get that differentiated experience that just isn't possible to cover in addition to the expanse of everything that's covered during pharmacy school. Pharmacy school just happens to not be enough to really be in our industry anymore. And I say that for a few reasons. One, if you look at our climate in the, post-apocalyptic state of COVID-19, is there is such a high supply of pharmacists, not only from an existing structure of just a lot of people are going into pharmacy because it does meet a certain lifestyle demand, as well as, fits an analytic personality that's out there. I think it's really conducive to a lot of people as far as what is a practical skill to learn, what is a practical expertise to develop for a certain type of science-minded person or, patient-oriented type of person. Now, in the impact of COVID-19 has left a lot of pharmacists without a job and pharmacy personnel without a job, whether that's been pharmacy closures or, businesses have shifted their strategies. There's been a lot of benchmarking activity to shrink workforce sizes. And we see healthcare very hit with innumerable expenses compared to where they're able to operate from and recoup costs that we're seeing from COVID-19. So what I think is imperative is for pharmacists to truly focus on differentiated skill, heightened skill beyond the degree, and then how do those translate into actionable soft skills that you can develop, resident or not. That's more of the issue that I see rather than do I do residency or not. It's how do you develop those skills or not. I think you can be successful without doing a residency, but it's going to be a harder thing to cultivate. One of the things that's nice about residency is it actually becomes an easier path. The residency is very hard, becomes an easier path to gain a bulk of differentiated experiences and unique experiences in a short amount of time because you are in this concentrated, pressure cooker of a designed experience focused of that diversity, kind of balancing that diversity of experience with specialization as well in the clinical realm. Now, when we start to look at the skills a resident possesses that sets them apart perhaps from just a degreed workforce is not only in the clinical specialties where, yes, you're going to pick up some hard clinical knowledge. Secondly, I think it's skill differentiation that really sets perhaps those that do residency apart from the degreed workforce. Now, the soft skills that are developed during residency could be developed outside of a residency, but it's going to take an extra act of finding a network, finding a mentor that can help provide and scale these experiences for you, looking for opportunities with your patient population of where you could scale and build a business model, or try some sort of entrepreneurship or program development or deployment How can you participate in medication use evaluation creation, journal clubs? One thing that I really love about the pharmacist skill set that a lot of people do overlook and undervalue is the ability to tear apart clinical literature and interpret those findings. Now, it's not about what's clinically encased in those studies. Rather, it's the ability to dissect that particular piece of literature and look at the methods, the design of the study, where it was done, how it was done. Did they dilute their data set? Is their data set applicable externally, or is it only internally valid? Those types of questions are where a pharmacist really shines, especially when we have providers or, a multivariate set of multidisciplinary people coming through and saying, we should do this because of this study. And then when you break down the study, it doesn't make sense for perhaps the situation that your organization finds themselves in. So I do see a lot of people drawing really large and really grand conclusions from very inconclusive data. So focusing on a way to volunteer or create those types of opportunities to have exposure, to be mentored, and to have that deep level of connection with people that are really good at that skill set, have already developed that skill set. See if you can take on a mentor that will help you get to that level of analytics. Now, with the pharmacy school programs, what I have noticed is though those are opportunities, those are assignments, it's just not enough, and it's not enough diversity of someone evaluating you in that skill set to really be competent and good. And I think that kind of maturity and that kind of confidence with being able to produce that analytical model for how a journal club should be done actually does come once you're into doing it over and over and over in each rotation during residency. And that might not be everyone's experience as a student. Now, I personally do feel that PGY1, PGY2, and then even a fellowship or PGY3 type experience, or a secondary PGY2 that's advanced enough to do a second year, is almost the model that I feel the industry is shifting to. Now, is that a radical opinion? Yes. Do I want to make sure that we are churning out enough competent professionals to fit demand? Yes, but we have an oversupply and an underskilled workforce, which I think is prime for us to become a higher specialty type profession. Now, I don't think we have enough residencies in certain specialties. I know I am in informatics right now, and there is just a paucity of informatics residency positions available. There's 30 across the US. Most are PGY2 experiences because informatics does, kind of have a confusing wrap around the pharmacy community where people assume it's not clinical. But I find in the informatics work I do, it's deeply, deeply clinical, to the ability where you have to understand when we put a medication in the system, it could be ordered across the population of patients. So how do you put in safeguards to truly make sure that it makes sense for one population over another? And how do we design alerts? Does it need an alert type thing, or do we want to refrain from alerts to prevent alert fatigue? How do we prevent iatrogenesis? It just becomes a very clinical problem that you're trying to solve, which I absolutely love. From a data perspective as well, data and residency perspective, I think a residency is really important because it does develop those data processing and research skills in evaluating the methods and measures we're taking to impact patient health. Are those having an impact on outcomes for our patients? And are there any sort of financial models that are of benefit to the organization to be able to sustain its own service that's providing these great outcomes for patients? Those types of experiences truly, I do not feel happen during the pharmacy school experience, but more in residency. And so if you're not doing a residency program, I think trying to look for those types of opportunities is going to be key, both in research and program development, program sustainment, interpreting data. And that is going to help future-proof your own skills as a pharmacist to remain competitive in this new age that we see ourselves in. I know one of the questions that I'm always asking myself is, are my job descriptions that I'm posting positions around, do they really offer me kind of the net that I'm trying to cast in the candidate pool out there? Am I going to get someone that's going to be able to adapt to a digital revolution that we find ourselves in, a consumerism healthcare culture that we're, seeing a flip to? How future-proofed is this candidate? Though I might have an immediate need to fill, how do I make sure that's balanced with the particular needs of the future? So from a research data standpoint, as well as developing some informatics skills, analytical skills for interpreting literature, networking skills. Residents do have the ability to interface and be mentored in a structured way through a program. And so if you're not doing a residency, I would say, how do you mimic that type of mentorship a new professional should have in the first years of their career, where they're really trying to get a strong trajectory to get where you want to go, and then also to get to that job security place as well, where you're differentiated enough, where you've become of true value to the organization that you find yourself in. And then lastly, and I don't think this happens for every resident, but I actually had quite a bit of financial intelligence baked into my program. And I did do a residency 2 years in healthcare administration and pharmacy leadership. And one of the things that I think was key there is not only the professional financial intelligence to apply to the business we were running, but then the themes of professional finance. So I'm going to start to share some of both here, just to, do my part in trying to share this information. I know not everyone has access to mentors. I know that I feel really lucky because there was a residency position available and that I was able to match to at that point. And I know that's not everyone's situation. So one of the things that I think I can do to try to help in this situation pharmacy finds itself in is to share some of these nuggets of information, pearls of information that, I've come across, that I think about all the time, and share it with this larger community to try to help to not only, try to have a roadmap of what you can do either way in residency or not to gain those soft skills, but then to perhaps to generate some of those, what are those soft skills that we should be working on? So excited to help, and hope that answers that question.